There's a level of mental strength that makes a person almost untouchable. And today, you'll learn how ancient Japanese warriors developed this mindset 600 years ago, and how you can start building it right now. Have you ever met someone who never complains? Someone who takes rejection without hesitation? Who accepts criticism without getting defensive? Who can walk into any room with total confidence? While others make excuses for why they can't succeed, while most people fall apart under pressure, this person stays solid. And you know what people usually say? They're just lucky. They don't deal with what I deal with. They were simply born different. But what many refuse to admit is that there's a harsh price for this kind of mental strength. Most people see that cost and step back. They want the result without making the sacrifice. Yet, in feudal Japan, there was a group of warriors known as the samurai who created a training system so powerful it turned ordinary men into unbreakable legends. If you follow this channel, you know I'm fascinated by Japanese warrior philosophy. And today, I'm going to reveal their secret, not the techniques they used in battle, but the inner system they used to create minds that fear could not touch. Before one of these warriors died, he explained the entire method in just one word: Fudoshin, the unmoving mind. A mind that cannot be disturbed by anything. And within this idea is the exact guide for becoming someone who cannot be shaken. But there's a catch. This method isn't based on positive thinking. It's not about affirmations or visualizing success. It's about exposure. These warriors didn't create mental armor by avoiding challenges. They built it by facing the very things that scared them the most. Before I break down exactly how this system works, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment what the one thing that always breaks your calm. This really helps the channel reach more people. And I enjoy going through your comments and interacting with you. Thank you for watching. Now, back to the video. The breaking point. The story I'm sharing today begins with a woman named Sophia, 28 years old, a marketing manager in a large city, driven, bright, and hardworking. But Sophia faced a problem that was slowly destroying her from within. She was fragile, not physically but mentally. Every criticism from her boss felt like a direct insult. Every tough conversation made her stomach twist. Every conflict made her want to disappear. She would lie awake at night replaying arguments, imagining better responses, punishing herself with scenarios that never happened. The pattern never changed. Something upset her. She lost control of her emotions. And it took days to recover. A sharp email from a client ruined her whole week. A passive-aggressive remark from a coworker stayed in her head for hours. She was always reacting, always defending herself, always tired. And it wasn't just at work. In her relationship, she couldn't handle disagreements. Whenever her boyfriend pointed out an issue, she would either shut down entirely or blow up in anger. There was no middle point. She was either the victim or the attacker, never someone who could stay calm and address the problem. Her friends slowly stopped bringing up anything serious with her. "You're too sensitive," they'd say. "You take everything personally." And they were right. She did, because she had no emotional protection. Any comment could hurt her. Any situation could throw her off balance. Then one day, something happened that changed her life. Sophia was in a meeting presenting a project she'd spent 3 months creating. Her boss cut her off halfway and said in front of everyone, "This is completely off target. Did you even read the brief?" The room went silent. Sophia felt her face burn. Her hands shook. Her throat tightened. She couldn't talk. She couldn't think. She froze as everyone stared. She left the room, went to the bathroom, and cried for 20 minutes. When she came out, she made a decision. She was done being this version of herself. Done letting a single comment ruin her. Done being weak. That night, she began searching. How do you build mental toughness? How do you become steady and unbreakable? And that's when she found the samurai idea of Fudoshin, the principle of deliberate discomfort. The first thing she learned about Fudoshin completely clashed with everything she'd heard about mental health. Modern psychology says, avoid your triggers. Stay in safe spaces. Protect your peace. The samurai taught the reverse. Seek the things that scare you. Step into what you avoid. Train exactly where it hurts. She read stories of samurai meditating under freezing waterfalls, sitting in zazen for hours until their legs went numb and their minds begged them to move, putting themselves in situations that tested their self-control. The idea was simple but harsh. You can't build armor without taking hits. You can't grow emotional resilience by hiding from emotional strain. Every time you run from discomfort, you teach yourself to be weaker. Every time you face it, you teach yourself to be stronger. Sophia realized she had spent years running. When something made her uneasy, she escaped it. A difficult conversation, she'd send a message instead. A conflict, she'd retreat. Criticism, she'd get defensive right away. Without knowing it, she'd been training herself to stay fragile. So she chose to do what the samurai did. She began seeking the exact situations that shattered her composure. She started with something small but frightening. Every morning before work, she recorded a 1-minute video of herself speaking. Then she watched it. It sounds simple, but for Sophia, it was painful. She hated her voice, hated her expressions. Each video made her cringe, yet she continued. Day 1, she could barely finish watching. Day 5, she noticed how often she repeated words. Day 10, she saw how she avoided looking at the camera. Day 20, she could watch without feeling that wave of discomfort. Something was shifting. The emotional charge was fading. Not because she suddenly loved seeing herself, but because the discomfort no longer ruled her. She had faced it so many times that it lost control over her. This is the first principle of Fudoshin. Repeated exposure to discomfort changes your nervous system. What once caused panic becomes neutral, not by running away, but by meeting it head-on. Misogi. The practice of purification. By day 30, Sophia was ready for something harder. She read about an old samurai practice called misogi. Originally, it was a purification ritual where practitioners stood beneath freezing waterfalls, but the water itself was only the surface-level practice. The real purpose was learning to hold steady under intense physical stress. Sophia didn't have a waterfall, but she had a shower, so she created her own version. Each morning after a normal warm shower, she would switch the water to fully cold and stay there for 3 minutes. The first attempt was miserable. Her body went into shock. Every instinct told her to jump out. Her breathing turned fast and shallow. Her mind slipped into panic. She lasted only 15 seconds. But she kept remembering what she had learned from the samurai. The goal isn't comfort. The goal is training the mind to stay calm when the body is under pressure. So she tried again the next day. Then again. 20 seconds turned into 30, then 45. And by the second week, something remarkable happened. While standing under the cold water, Sophia noticed her breathing. It was slow, deep, controlled. Her body still registered the cold, but her mind wasn't reacting with fear. She had separated physical sensation from mental reaction. This is what the samurai referred to as kokoro, the unified mind and heart. It is the ability to feel discomfort physically without creating suffering mentally. They understood something many people today overlook. Physical challenge is one of the fastest ways to build mental strength. A neuroscientist at Tokyo University who researches stress responses explains it this way. When you voluntarily expose yourself to controlled stressors like cold, you train your autonomic nervous system. Over time, your baseline stress response decreases. What once triggered your fight or flight response barely affects you. Sophia began noticing this shift in her daily life. A harsh email from her boss. She'd feel a brief jolt of adrenaline, then it faded quickly. A tough conversation, her heart would jump, then settle. Nothing about the situations had changed. But her nervous system was learning that discomfort is not danger. The immovable form. But Sophia still had a problem. She was improving at handling discomfort when she was on her own. Cold showers, watching herself on camera, physical challenges. Yet the moment someone criticized her directly, confronted her, or put pressure on her, she still fell apart. That's when she discovered the samurai idea of kata, which means form or pattern. Samurai practiced set responses to specific attacks thousands of times until those responses became automatic. When an opponent struck, they didn't think. Their body reacted instantly because the movements were programmed through repetition. Sophia realized she needed to do something similar for emotional attacks. She needed automatic responses so she wouldn't freeze or overreact when someone came at her verbally. She created what she called her emotional kata, 5 standard responses to 5 situations that triggered her most. When criticized, thank you for the feedback. Let me take some time to think about it. When personally attacked, I hear that you're upset. What specifically needs to change? When interrupted, remain silent. Let them finish. Then continue speaking without addressing the interruption. When blamed unfairly, I see it differently. Here's my perspective. Then present facts without becoming defensive. When pressured for an immediate decision, I need time to consider this properly. I'll give you an answer by under. These weren't just lines. They were emotional pre-programmed responses designed to activate automatically under stress. But like the samurai practicing sword forms, she had to repeat them thousands of times. Every day, Sophia rehearsed these responses out loud in the mirror, in the car, while walking to work. She imagined the hardest scenarios and practiced responding with her kata. It felt awkward in the beginning, speaking to herself and practicing conversations that hadn't happened. But then came the real test. Her boss called her into his office and said, "The client hated your presentation. They said it was amateur work and they might drop their contract." The old Sophia would have panicked, rushed into excuses, and felt her confidence collapse. But this time, something different happened. Her cutter activated automatically. "Thank you for letting me know. What specifically did they object to?" Her voice was calm. Her hands weren't shaking. She didn't defend herself. She simply responded. Her boss looked surprised. He had expected her to crumble as she always had. Instead, she stood steady. This is the power of kata. When responses are programmed through repetition, thinking under pressure becomes unnecessary. You simply act. Shujio, severe training. By day 90, Sophia had made real progress. Cold showers, video practice, emotional kata. She was steadier than ever. But she knew something was missing. She could handle everyday stress better, but she hadn't truly tested herself under extreme conditions. She read about Shujio, the samurai tradition of severe training. These weren't ordinary practices. They were deliberately brutal experiences designed to break you so you could rebuild stronger. Samurai would go days without food, train for hours straight, or face situations where failure could mean death. Sophia couldn't replicate those extremes, but she could create her own version. She chose something that terrified her most: public speaking. She signed up for a local storytelling event, where participants spoke for 5 minutes in front of 100 strangers. No slides, no notes, just a microphone. For Sophia, this was the ultimate test: being watched, judged, vulnerable, with nowhere to hide. The first time she prepared, she panicked. Imagining herself on stage made her heart race, palms sweat, every instinct screamed to cancel. But she remembered the samurai principle. The thing you most want to avoid is the thing you most need to face. So she didn't cancel. She prepared differently than most people. She didn't memorize every word. She didn't rehearse until perfect. Instead, she practiced failing deliberately. She stood in her living room and intentionally messed up her story. She practiced forgetting lines, awkward silences, every worst-case scenario, until none triggered panic anymore. The night of the event arrived. Sophia's name was called. She walked on stage. 100 faces stared, lights in her eyes, microphone in hand. Fear, adrenaline, instinct to flee, but she didn't react. She spoke. About 2 minutes in, she forgot her next line. Complete blank. In the past, this would have destroyed her. But she had practiced this exact moment. She paused 3 seconds, smiled, said, "Give me a moment," and continued. The audience didn't care. In fact, they connected more, seeing a real, imperfect human who remained unbroken. When she finished, people said, "You were so calm up there. So confident." They had no idea how terrified she had been. This is what Shujio teaches. Fear isn't eliminated. You learn to act while it's present. Samurai weren't fearless. They were trained to move despite fear, which is entirely different. Zanshin, permanent vigilance. But Sophia made a mistake that almost destroyed her progress. After her speech, she relaxed completely. She skipped cold showers, stopped practicing her kata, stopped seeking discomfort. For 2 weeks, she coasted. Then one day, her boyfriend criticized her, and she exploded in anger. Just like before, all the composure she had built evaporated in seconds. She was devastated. Had she lost everything? That's when she learned about Zanshin, the samurai concept of sustained awareness. Zanshin means remaining mind, the mind that stays alert even after the battle is won. Samurai knew more warriors died after victory than during battle because they let their guard down. Sophia realized she had done exactly that. She treated mental toughness as a goal rather than a daily practice. The moment she stopped training, her gains reversed, like a muscle that atrophies without exercise. She studied how samurai maintained Zanshin throughout life. They trained continuously, even in peace and old age, understanding that mental resilience requires constant upkeep, or it decays. So Sophia made a new commitment. This wasn't a 90-day challenge. It was a lifetime practice. The cold showers weren't a temporary fix, they were a lifelong practice. True resilience requires continuous challenge. Sophia created what she called her non-negotiables. 3 daily practices, no exceptions. Morning, 3-minute cold shower. Afternoon, record and watch a 60-second video. Evening, practice her emotional cutter for 5 minutes. No excuses, no, I'm too tired, or I don't feel like it. The samurai understood a key principle. Discipline means practicing especially when you don't want to. The transformation was immediate. Within a week of resuming her routine, Sophia's composure returned. More importantly, she grasped a deeper truth. There is no finish line where you become permanently unbreakable. There is only practice. As long as you maintain it, your strength persists. Fudoshin, the immovable mind. 6 months into her training, Sophia noticed a fundamental shift. She wasn't just handling stress better, she was becoming someone entirely different. Colleagues began noticing. "You never get rattled anymore," one said. Her boss, the same person who used to make her cry, started treating her with respect, not because of confrontation, but because her presence had changed. When you stop reacting to provocation, you stop being an easy target. People who push others seek a reaction. When none comes, they move on. Sophia had become what the samurai called like a mountain, solid, immovable, present, and unaffected. The real test came on day 187. Sophia's company announced layoffs. 30% of the staff would be cut. Chaos erupted. Fear, rumors, political maneuvering. Her old patterns would have sent her into panic, sleepless nights, and frantic efforts to prove herself. This time, something different happened. She felt the initial fear, acknowledged it, and let it pass like wind through a tree. The tree moves with the wind but doesn't uproot. That is Fudoshin. The immovable mind doesn't eliminate feeling. It prevents feelings from pulling you off center. Sophia continued her work with the same quality, standards, and composure. Amid chaos, she remained steady, and it showed. When the layoffs were complete, her entire team was let go, except her. Her boss explained, everyone else was focused on survival. You stayed professional through the chaos. This is what mental armor looks like. It's not about feeling no fear or stress. It's about remaining functional despite them. The samurai weren't emotionless. They were trained to act optimally regardless of emotional state. Harvard psychologists studying resilience confirm this. People who thrive under pressure don't lack stress. They have a different relationship with it. Elite performers rewire their nervous systems to interpret stress as preparation, not threat. 6 months of deliberate discomfort had done the same for Sophia. Panic triggers now prompted focus. Her body still produced adrenaline, but she responded with presence, not fear. Musho toku, no gaining idea. Around month 8, something unexpected happened. People began avoiding her, not because she was harsh, but because her calm, professional presence highlighted their own emotional turbulence. Coworkers stopped complaining, friends stopped gossiping, and even her boyfriend became defensive. "You act like nothing bothers you," he said. It's not normal. And he was right. Most people live in constant reaction. When you stop, you become a mirror, revealing what others are not. Sophia learned about Musho Toku, a Zen principle the samurai embraced, acting without attachment to the outcome. The goal isn't to arrive somewhere, the practice itself is the point. She realized that she had unconsciously been using her progress as a way to feel superior, and that wasn't the path. Look at how composed I am. Look at how I don't react. That was ego, and ego is a weakness. The samurai knew that pride in strength creates vulnerability. Sophia realized she needed a counterintuitive step. She stopped tracking progress. She stopped seeking validation. She removed all external measures of success. Her practice continued, but now without ego. Cold showers were no longer about proving toughness. The emotional cutter wasn't about winning arguments. There was no attachment to outcomes. And paradoxically, this made her even stronger. With nothing to defend, no identity to protect, she simply was. People found this unsettling. She didn't need approval, validation, or recognition. That independence was magnetic and simultaneously threatening. The mirror principle. 1 year into her training, Sophia's life looked different externally. She'd earned 2 promotions. Her relationship had stabilized. She'd spoken at several events. Yet the biggest changes were internal. She developed what the samurai called hijishin, a mind that remains stable regardless of circumstances. Not perpetually happy, not emotionless, just steady, responsive rather than reactive. But she noticed something ancient warriors had warned about. As mental strength grows, so does awareness of others' weaknesses. She became impatient with those who couldn't handle stress, frustrated by excuses, judgmental toward those who gave up. Sophia had become what she once despised, arrogant and dismissive. The greatest samurai, she learned, paired strength with compassion. Not softness, but remembrance. They remembered the struggle to build strength and that everyone is at their own stage. This is the mirror principle. True strength reflects others. Some see inspiration, others feel threatened. Neither reaction is about you. Sophia learned to hold her strength quietly, to be helpful without preaching, to be an example without judgment. This is the highest level of Fudoshin, strength that doesn't need to prove itself. She began mentoring younger colleagues, sharing practices like cold showers, the emotional cutter, and deliberate discomfort, but only when asked. She understood the final lesson of the warrior's path. You can only save yourself. You can show the way, but others must walk it themselves. The price of armor. 18 months into her journey, Sophia was unrecognizable. She had genuine mental armor, but she also discovered a cost: loneliness. Stopping complaints revealed how much social bonding relies on shared grievances. Ceasing emotional reactivity showed how connection often comes through drama. Letting go of validation exposed relationships built on mutual neediness. Her old friends stopped inviting her out, not because she had changed poorly, but because she no longer fit the old dynamic. Her family remarked, "You've become cold. You're too serious." In truth, Sophia wasn't playing the old role, the fragile one everyone relied on to avoid confronting their own weaknesses. This is a hidden reality of building real strength. When you change, your social ecosystem must reorganize. Some relationships will fall away. The samurai understood this. They often lived apart not out of superiority, but because their way of life was incompatible with ordinary society. Facing death without fear makes it difficult to relate to those who panic over trivial inconveniences. Sophia had to accept this. She lost friends, grew distant from family, but gained self-reliance. She no longer needed others to regulate her emotions or provide validation. She could stand alone. This is what the samurai called tan, the forging process. Like steel hardened through fire and hammering, she became stronger, harder, yet more isolated. Soft metal cannot relate to forged steel. The eternal practice. 2 years into her journey, Sophia realized something profound. She had started thinking there would be an endpoint, a day she could relax. That day never came, and it never would. The samurai said, "Training is a lifelong path. There is no mastery, only practice." There is no arrival, only the journey. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you begin to deteriorate. Sophia saw this in herself. Weeks she skipped practice, she felt her mental armor thinning, composure slipping. She realized the armor required constant maintenance or it would rust. At first, this seemed discouraging. I have to do this forever? But she came to understand that practice was the point itself. The cold showers, the emotional cutter, the deliberate discomfort, they weren't methods to reach something. They were the transformation. This is what the samurai called shugyo, the way of austere training. The path itself is the destination. You don't train to become enlightened in the future. Training itself is the enlightened state. You don't practice to be strong later. Practice is strength in action. Sophia had become someone for whom challenge was normal, discomfort expected, and difficulty welcomed. Not out of masochism, but because she understood these experiences were the fire that tempered her steel. Her life now included deliberate hardship every day. Some days were physical, cold exposure, intense workouts, fasting. Some days were mental, difficult conversations, public speaking, facing fears. There was always something because she had learned the ultimate lesson. Comfort is the enemy of capacity. Every day spent comfortable is a day spent growing weaker, not dramatically, but incrementally. And those increments compound. The samurai trained daily not for a battle tomorrow, but to maintain yesterday's strength. The moment practice stops, decay begins. This is true for muscles, for skills, and especially for mental toughness. People would ask Sophia, "How did you become so strong?" She'd smile and say, "I'm not strong. I just practice being uncomfortable every day." This confused them. They wanted to believe she had some special gift, some genetic advantage, some luck. But the truth of Fudoshin, mental armor, becoming unbreakable, is simple. It's not mystical. It's not complicated. It's consistently doing things that are uncomfortable until your nervous system adapts. The samurai had no secret techniques or magic formulas, just disciplined, daily exposure to hardship. They had decades of training. Miyamoto Musashi didn't win 60 duels because he was born special. He trained obsessively from age 13 until his death. 50 years of deliberate discomfort, 50 years facing what scared him most. You have access to the same process. Cold showers, emotional cutter, deliberate exposure to fear, public speaking, hard conversations, physical challenges. These aren't secrets, they're available to anyone. The difference between Sophia and her old self wasn't access to information, it was willingness. Willingness to be uncomfortable. Willingness to look foolish while learning. Willingness to fail repeatedly. Willingness to maintain practice when no one is watching. Sophia's final realization came 2.5 years into her journey. During a morning cold shower, she noticed something extraordinary. She wasn't counting down the time. She wasn't hoping the discomfort would end. She was just present, calm. The cold water was just cold water, no story, no resistance. This is the ultimate level of Fudoshin. Not that nothing bothers you, but that being bothered doesn't move you. You can feel discomfort without suffering. You can experience fear without being controlled by it. You can face difficulty without creating drama around it. This is what makes you untouchable, not the absence of challenge, but the absence of internal resistance to challenge. Life will always bring storms. The question is whether the storms move you from your center or whether you remain like a mountain, shaken on the surface, but unmoved at the core. The question isn't whether this method works. The samurai proved it over centuries. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price. The price is daily discomfort. The price is facing what scares you when comfort calls. The price is maintaining practice when motivation fades. The price is becoming someone your old friends might not recognize. The reward is priceless. You move through life untouchable. You face anything without breaking. You become the person others ask about. How are they so calm? How do they handle so much? If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and leave a like. Tell me in the comments, what's the first uncomfortable practice you'll start today? What fear will you face instead of avoiding? Remember, Mental armor isn't built in comfort. It's forged in the fire of deliberate hardship. If you've made it this far, thank you for your attention. Now, go do something that scares you. Face the discomfort, embrace the challenge, and start building your own mental armor. See you in the next video.